Hey everybody. Yes, after a few months or time of lurking on other people's YouTube videos, I decided to start my own. My name is Matt. I titled my channel "A Most Adequate Collection," just because that's what I feel it is. I feel like as I'm watching other people's videos and seeing what different cards they're adding to their collection, showing off, I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not me. That's not what I can do. I can't afford all of those pre-war era cards, memorabilia, anything like that. But at the same time, there's nothing, I guess, low end about my collection. I've got a really decent set of pretty cool items. Nothing that's going to qualify for a museum, but at the same time, if someone comes over, they'd be somewhat impressed. And a pretty good example of the variety of my stuff is kind of what you see behind me. Right above my head, you'll see a case of autographed baseballs. A few rows of Hall of Famers, a few rows of my favorite team, the Chicago Cubs. The bottom row is a combination of Minnesota Twins and Houston Astros, which is where I've lived in the past, in the Houston area, and now I'm in the Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota area. So the two, I guess, local teams. But my favorite team is the Chicago Cubs. They came to be my favorite team because as a boy in 1989, I was living in the Dallas area of Texas, but at the same time, I didn't draw myself to the Rangers. We moved around a lot when I was younger. My dad had a job with an industrial contract company, so a lot of like power plant construction, that kind of thing, to where you'd live in one place for a year and a half, and then get transferred somewhere else. Because once that job is done, there's not work there, so you go where the next job is. So I never really went into the whole local team in that I have to be a fan of whatever team just because I that's where my parents lived. Um, but as a boy, when I was getting into baseball, as many boys do when they're younger, 1989, I was home for the summer vacation, and this was the year after Wrigley Field installed lights for the first time. So they hadn't completely reorganized or restructured their game schedule. Before that, it was all day games, and I guess that was still the case in '89. So as I was home and turning on the TV and wanting to watch a baseball game, it was the Chicago Cubs. Harry Carey was the announcer at the time, who's world renowned for his character, you could say. And They were also really good that year. Now, this was the year they went to the playoffs, which sounds weird to say it's the year they went to the playoffs, as if a lot of franchises are used to that. But for them, it wasn't necessarily a regular occurrence. But a combination of just them being on TV, them being really good at the time, and me just getting into it, that's who I picked for my team. So that's where you see the Cubs. But on this side, you'll see a poster signed by Chris Claremont, who is a comic book writer, mainly on the X-Men. He didn't create, I guess, the original six, seven, however many there were X-Men, but a lot of the characters that followed up. I think like Gambit, Rogue, Nightcrawler. He was that creator. And then a couple years ago, for Free Comic Book Day, our local comic shop um, had him in as a guest to sign autographs, books, pictures, photos, that kind of thing. So picked one up. I got two comic books. One is right here, and then there's one behind it. I've got them both in case. And then that was a pretty cool custom poster they did just for that event, so I had them sign that as well. And then right up here, you'll see an 11 by 14 signed by Ray Chase, who did the main character in Final Fantasy 15. He did the voice for that, or at least the English voice for that. And we had him in Fargo as a guest at Anime Fargo 2 years ago. So it'd be 23, I believe it was. And I'm not into anime at all. That's not my world in any way. But my daughter loves it. She's 14 now. And so that's kind of been our thing for the last 3, 4 years is I'll take her to that every year. And she'll get a different cosplay every year and dress up. And for the most part, the voice guests that they have aren't going to be any of the big names, any of the big characters, anything like that. So not anyone I'm familiar with, but I am a gamer. And so if it's got a voice of a known character, I'll get one of those. So I got that. It's really cool. I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, but his signature and the inscription, he certainly took up a lot of real estate on the photo, which I like. I've seen modern players, modern athletes with small signatures and just print and just write their initials and then in whatever size they happen to write them in and just move on. But in that one, he took up a lot of space in it, and it's something you can see from far away. Then also right up here, you're going to see two football helmets. This one from J.J. Watt. Growing up in Houston, of course, somewhat of a Texans fan. But then that came to, I was just looking up it's probably like 10 or 12 years ago. On sportscollectors.net, they have private signing advertisements. And someone was doing a private signing with them, and so I just took advantage of that. It was strictly a mail order, not an in-person thing. But I got it then. He was a good player at the time, really well known, but he didn't become the Hall of Fame caliber athlete quite yet. So it's certainly something that I would not get it as cheaply now as I did it back then. So I was happy to have it in my collection. And then the Lions helmet you'll see right there over my shoulder is from Barry Sanders. And that one I just got a couple months ago. We live about 3.5 hours away from Minneapolis. And there's a memorabilia store, Fan HQ, there that does a lot of autograph appearances. And that weekend, had Barry Sanders in, also Chris Carter and John Randall from the Vikings, and Christian Laettner. I think they're all four of them are exclusive to Schwartz Sports, so I'm guessing that Fan HQ did a deal with Schwartz to get a bunch of their athletes in. And most likely, the other three, seeing as though they have the Minnesota connection, were probably the original targets, I guess. And then Barry Sanders, it was more of like, well, you can bring him in, you might as well. But I was happy to get that, and it's usually too long of a trip to just kind of do it just for one thing. But as luck would have it, we were getting my oldest daughter, who's 17, a pair of custom figure skates, and there's a specialty shop in Minneapolis that everyone, even from this area, if you're going to go get the best figure skates you can get, that's where you go. We went about a month before, had to special order them because they had the blades there, but they didn't have the boots. So we'd have to come back and get the boot and skate, put together. And then they have this whole thing that custom molds it to your feet. But seeing as though they didn't have it at the time, we would have to come back. As luck would have it, the next time that would be available was the same weekend. So she can get her skates, my wife can get some shopping done, and I can meet Barry Sanders. And maybe in another episode further down, I'll kind of go into more of it. But it was just one of the best experiences I've had with a public signing, and especially when you consider the caliber of athlete that he was. But that's kind of there's a few other things you can see behind me. The corner of the room, there's other stuff, but I think it just goes to show the variety of my collection. And if I wanted to describe myself as anything, definitely a card collector. Favorite sport is baseball, but I love hockey. And so I have plenty of hockey stuff too. Also somewhat into comic books and video games, somewhat. Uh, but really a lot of this stuff is opportunistic. Barry Sanders just happened to be in Minneapolis the same weekend we just happened to be going to Minneapolis for something else. The Chris Claremont, he just happened to be a guest that they came in. And same with Ray Chase too. So some of these items isn't so much things that I just targeted, but just taking advantages of the opportunities that are there before you. Of course, obviously, as I was saying, I'm a big Cubs fan, and growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, Ryne Sandberg became my favorite player. And it's still someone that I collect to this day. So collecting focuses of players, Ryne Sandberg, and then obviously being a Cubs fan, Ernie Banks. I don't have his complete Topps run. There's quite a few that I still need, but quite a few that I have. I don't have his 54 which is a big target of mine, but it's also a pretty expensive card. But apart from that, they're all fairly affordable. So it's a collecting goal that I have that I feel is still somewhat attainable. And as luck would have it, the biggest player on the Cubs is still, for the most part, affordable. I think I'd have a bigger problem as a fan of the Yankees or Dodgers having to go after people like Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio or Sandy Koufax, Jackie Robinson, players that really demand a premium even for their most basic of basic base cards. But that's kind of just an introduction to me, to my collection. Big card collector. And, and my story is kind of the same as a lot of people. Kind of came in during the junk wax era just because that's how the timing worked out. If I would have, been born a few years early, I would have came in earlier. If I'd have been born a few years later, I'd have come in later. But my collecting started in around 89, 90, so I certainly have a lot of cards from that era. And similar to a lot of other people entering high school and college, your interests kind of divert into other places. But I never really ever stopped. Even when things slowed down, I don't think I ever stopped. If I wasn't buying lots of packs and boxes at the time, there would be times where maybe I'd only get, one or two blaster boxes from Target in a year. But I still would. If something kind of grabs my curiosity, as you can see, I'll pick it up and I'll keep up with it. I guess because I never made a conscious effort to quit or to stop. And then also at the same time, I don't want to go 10 or 15 years without getting anything. And because at the end of the day, I want to at least have, like, I'm not buying a lot of modern cards right now, but at the same time, I don't want to have a collection without any like Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout cards or uh, Vlad Guerrero. So even if it's just base cards and a few of them, I want to at least have something of everybody. But I'd say, as I'm kind of getting back into it now, what I'm discovering is the stuff that I thought was cool as a kid are the things that I still think are cool. Even if value has dropped off on them, it's still kind of something I'd like to get. Like the 86 Donruss Jose Canseco isn't as expensive as it once was, but as a kid, I thought that was a cool looking card. It was in high demand, and you see it everywhere. I was a regular subscriber to Beckett Magazine for probably a good 6, 7, 8 years during that time, and it was a card you'd see all over the place. So regardless of the value now, it's still something one day I'd like to have. The Ryne Sandberg rookie cards, I couldn't afford them as a 10-year-old. Yeah, I certainly couldn't convince my parents to allow me to spend $20 on a baseball card, that's for sure. But then as an adult, it's something I can get easily. So I think kind of where I'm leaning in a direction now is kind of one of the things I'd like to do is get the cards that I thought were cool when I was a kid that I never got, but now that I'm older and with somewhat of a disposable income, I can get them now. Not that they're great investments and not that I'm going to get rich on them, but it goes into that something that I always wanted. And I think what I'm seeing from a lot of other people's channels is that collecting, there isn't really anyone that I watch that picked up collecting for the first time as an adult. Everyone, if they go through their story, regardless of when they were born, regardless of when they were a kid, that's when things started for them. And collecting now kind of brings back that boyhood excitement that they had and kind of makes you feel like a kid again in a lot of ways. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I guess I've just been talking for the last 14 minutes, but should probably show something off. So I guess I'll show off my Christmas haul. Now, I don't know how everyone else is, but I know between my wife and I, we have 3 kids, 3 girls, and we're so busy making sure that they're taken care of and that we get them kind of some of the things that they're interested and they want. And we've gotten to where my wife and I most of the time honestly just buy stuff we want and then put them under the tree wrapped. So the stuff that I got for Christmas is stuff I picked out for myself. In the same way for her, some of the stuff she got for Christmas, the stuff she picked out for herself. But that's okay, because you don't have to worry about taking stuff back to the store, person not liking it, not being interested in it. So, anyways, here's my haul. First off, we got 2 boxes. 1992 Stadium Club Baseball, Series 1 and a Series 2. Now, if you know Stadium Club from that day, you might be saying to yourself, well, why 92? Why not 91? 91 was the year that it first came out. It had all the hype around it, the photography, glossy front and back. And that was a set that people made a big deal out of at the time. And the reason why I got 92 is because I thought that was the first set when I looked it up on eBay. I didn't bother checking, didn't bother researching. Just figured, oh yeah, 92 was the first year. But still, I didn't pay too much for them. I think they ended up being about $25 a piece for the two of them, which isn't bad for it. And it's still cool cards. It's still stuff that I think I will enjoy opening it at the very least. And I also do TTM autographs too. Now, 92 Stadium Club, there's actually 3 series of it. And I think 300 cards in each series for a total of 900 cards for the set, which is a lot. Too much. But what it will provide is a lot of cards of players who might not otherwise have a lot of cards. So as a TTM collector, it'll give me a chance to get, at least I have 1 card of this guy who signs through the mail. And the worst case scenario, I get a few autograph cards for the price of a couple postage stamps, a couple envelopes, and my time. And that's it. I guess I was going to say second, but I guess third box, 90-91 Pro Set Hockey. This was a set back in the day that was so cheap. It was when a few other companies started getting into the hockey card world, and Pro Set, they did football too, but at least that Series 1, 90-91 was notorious for its errors. Now, there was a bit of an error card craze at the time. So the question is, how much of this is accidental and low quality control, and how much of it was intentional to create some hype around your product? The search for the error cards in there. Some were pretty common. Some they fixed pretty quickly, so they're more rare than others. There's not going to be anything super valuable in there, apart from there was a limited to 5,000. A hologram of the Stanley Cup that even to this day could go up to $1,000, $1,200 for that card. Pretty rare, and we kind of have to adjust our perspective when we look back at those, because when we're seeing one of ones and cards out of 5 and out of 25 and out of 99, 5,000 sounds like a ton, but we have to remember that with the overproduction of cards of that day, 5,000 is very few when you consider that there were millions and millions and millions of each card produced. So a card out of 5,000 from this era is probably as rare as a card out of 10 from this era. So we'll see. I'm not expecting much out of it. It'll just be a fun, nostalgic rip, and that'll be it. I do think, though, it would be fun to try and put a master set, a pro set together, just because there were so many errors and so many different versions of the cards. And so instead of just doing the 1 to 300 or whatever it is, not just get 1 card of each, but 1 card of each version of the card, and do the regular card, the error card of every single card that had those qualifications. And lastly, my last Christmas gift. One thing that I do kind of like about baseball, when it comes to minor leagues especially, is just how silly it can be. And silliness can kind of come in the forms of their different promotions that they do, off-the-wall games and events and special guests and that kind of thing. There's also some ridiculous team names out there. Now, for some reason, on my Facebook algorithm, I'm seeing advertisements for a team from the East Coast, from Oregon, known as the Portland Pickles. Now, to me, I enjoy pickles as a food, condiment, whatever, but it's just so absurd that that's, of all things, what you would name your team. And I thought it was hysterical and silly. and it's collecting's supposed to be fun. So like, let's be silly and ridiculous with it. Now they were doing a Black Friday deal, and jerseys were 50% off. And this was a team issued jersey, meaning that it wasn't used for on the field play. So I don't know if it was just made for somebody who didn't play that day, made for a promotion that they just didn't do, made for a player early on that maybe went to a different team or was hurt. But here's the jersey I got. Just pretty basic. Team name, and then WCL, I believe that's West Coast League, in the middle. And the reason I got this one over the others is because it has the city and the team name. There were others where it just says Pickles and script on it. And while they looked kind of cool, colors and design and everything, at the same time, like I want it to be obvious, because no one's gonna have heard of this team. I want it to be obvious that this is an actual team, as opposed to just somebody having a baseball jersey with the word Pickles on it, as though they're a pickle enthusiast instead of just wearing a jersey of an actual team. But yeah, patches on the front to spell out the letters. We do have shoulder patches too. PCL. That's kind of weird. Let's figure out what WCL versus PCL is. I don't know. State of Oregon, and then on this side we've got a patch for the field that they play in. But yeah, it's just something silly. You know, it wasn't too expensive, pretty cheap, and it's fun. This hobby's supposed to be fun, so let's do things to make it fun, and that way we get some enjoyment out of them, even if nobody understands it but us. But anyways, oh geez, that's been 21 minutes. A lot longer than I expected to talk, essentially to nobody. But yeah, stick around. I'm going to be doing more videos. I think because of my work schedule combined with having a wife and kids at home, there's not going to be any regular schedule I'll be posting at. It's just kind of more of going to be as I'm able to. But hope to show off a lot of the really cool items in my collection, meet some people along the way. And the whole point of having this is to show them off to somebody. So this is going to allow me to show off my collection to people who will be just as enthusiastic about me. But anyways, that's me kind of in a nutshell. Probably will post videos of me breaking these boxes and then figure out what to do from there. I don't like a lot of people that start when they do this. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm just going to put up my phone, hit record, and then we'll see what happens. But that's all for now, and I'll see y'all later.